Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another weekend virtual cafe. We're so excited that you've joined us today. My name is Carrie Ramsey, and I am the project manager for the We Can project, which stands for Women Entrepreneurs Can, which we know, of course. And it's funded by FedDev Ontario. It's led by Queen's University, and it's fueled by women like you. And we're always so excited to have you folks in these sessions, because otherwise it would be very lonely for me. Obviously, I'm excited today to hear what your thoughts and solutions are around this topic of social media, which of course all of us grapple with on a daily basis. Just before we get into the roundtable though, I would love for you to drop a note into the Zoom chat. Let us know where you're connecting from in the world. Alisa, you've got this like Greek background. I don't know if you're actually there. I'm sure we wish we were.
I wish I was. Good morning, but no.
We can all dream. We've got to have our dream backgrounds. So why don't you let us know maybe where you're connecting from? If you have a business, you can certainly let us know the website as well. I think this is a great opportunity, always to network as well. So while you're taking a moment in the Zoom chat to let us know where you're from and maybe share your website, I'll acknowledge that I am connecting to this workshop from the Bay of Quinte region, which is in the Belleville, Ontario area. And I have been privileged to live, work, and play here for the past 18 years with my family on these ancestral lands, which belong to the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. This is, of course, the traditional hunting, gathering, and fishing territory of those peoples. And it is certainly our honor to be a part of this incredible region as it's turning, the leaves are turning, a new season is coming, and just it's so wonderful to walk through nature right now and be mindful of all of it at once. Thanks so much for letting us know where you're from in the chat, folks. That's awesome. So today, of course, is a virtual cafe as opposed to a traditional workshop where we have someone presenting with slides. Rather, we love in these virtual cafes to open it up to questions, and then we provide solutions to each other, or we give feedback. And I know that around this topic of social media, there's always a lot of questions. It can be very frustrating for a lot of people. And I mean, the thing I like to let people know right at the top is that, you know, there are algorithms involved here on Instagram and Facebook. When I first started using Facebook for my first business, which was a bricks and mortar business, it was very easy to get people to follow you, very easy to get people to see all of your posts. And I felt like a superstar. And then I started feeling like a failure, because then the algorithms kicked in. I'm like, why all of a sudden are my posts not being shared and liked? Well, there is, you know, this internal system so that we will pay for ads, right? It's designed for, you know, pay to play. So we still, however, can share some tools, some solutions, and some strategies. All is not lost. However, this topic today about social media, I think even though it's daunting, you know, we still can manage it. We can make it work for us. And so we're excited to hear some questions you might have, and of course, solutions from the folks as well in the group. All right, so who would like to kick it off today? If you'd like to, and you know where your reaction button is, you can do that. Or you can do what Khaled just did, which is put your literal hand up, because we'll be able to see that too. So you go ahead and start it out, Khaled.
Hi, I just heard on the radio this morning, CBC, big company like Lush, cosmetic, and some bed, bath, something works. They just pull out from social medias.
Wow.
Yeah, because so much negative things around, especially for teenagers. And I thought, wow, this is a great topic. Because I was coming this today. So I just wanna know everybody's thought about that.
Wow, I didn't hear that, but Megan, you're nodding. Did you hear that as well?
I did. I think I saw it yesterday. Yeah, I think it's really incredible. And I think if you have a business that has that kind of gigantic platform already, then it's a really bold move. And I think that will help change some minds. I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. Because my business relies so much on social media. I'm also not marketing to teenage girls, but I think it's amazing. And I think it's a really good, stand to take.
It's a great statement, especially with the negative body image and all of the things that we've seen happen, even more so over the last 2 years, for sure. Really, thanks for sharing that, Kelly. Very interesting. And I think that as small business owners, yeah, we take responsibility for what we're posting. And I think that's very important to take a look at it from that moral and ethical standpoint, which clearly that larger company has decided for themselves. Very interesting. All right, any questions in terms of strategies, tools, anything? That was a great comment. I really appreciate that. I'll look up that article. Who wants to do just throw something out there so we can have a reaction to it? Go ahead, Alisa.
Good morning. I mean, my business is relatively new as well. And interestingly enough, personally, I don't have any social media. So my business is under a pseudonym. Because I work in higher education and within the hospital system. So, I kind of don't want the two worlds to be connected. So social media was completely new to me. Like I've never had an Instagram, never did Facebook. Like I'm a very private person, therefore the pseudonym. And so I've had to literally learn, and I've gotten coaches and trainers and took courses to learn, Pinterest, and I'm on YouTube as well, all of that. But I realized that I'm getting traffic from Instagram and YouTube and Instagram typically are the most, but my question is with Instagram, I'm not so much interested in having, thousands of followers. I'm interested in having followers that are true followers that are going to be, clients and all of that. So I guess my question is, what's the best way to do that? I recently learned that stories are a great way to attract and engage the right clientele. I also struggle with telling my personal story. Again, it kind of goes into being a very private person. So I know that in this day and age, a lot of folks are doing the same exact thing. So you stand out by being unique, by being you. And because I struggle kind of talking about myself, I feel like that's been a barrier for me. But I guess my general question would be, what would be the best approach to attract the right following? How would we go about doing that specifically on Instagram or Facebook, I guess, but Instagram is my primary question.
Love that question. Awesome. All right, Megan, go ahead. And then anyone else who wants to chime in, very interested to hear your thoughts on this.
So I'll just start off by saying, I noticed a big difference in engagement when I started showing up as myself more. Right. So, and 100%, it's not easy for everybody, and nor is it necessary, like everybody's different. The one thing I will say is I listened to a podcast episode about 2 or 3 months ago, and the podcast is called Joyful Marketing, and I've mentioned it here before. Her approach is to look at social media as though you're building relationships and not as though you're selling stuff. And so that involves asking questions. And so certainly with stories, there's all kinds of options for creating engagement, right? There's polls, there's ask a question, there's you putting out a question and allowing people to answer in the question box. And then you share that stuff and you create engagement that way. I also find with stories, they're a great place to have DM conversations, because people will reply to those and then you can sort of engage them. And the only other thing I'll say is it's got to be natural and not, when people come in your DMs, they're like, hey, can I ask you a question? And you're like, I don't even know you. What? No, I know what you're doing. I don't want to do this with you. So that's the only other thing is I've noticed if it's just genuine, and as though like I'm walking into a cafe and chatting with a bunch of people, which I personally probably wouldn't do in real life, but on social media, I can do it. I find it helps create relationships. And if I don't think of people as potential clients, it just makes it fun too, right? If you just feel like you're trying to target everybody and see like how you can turn them into a sale, it just gets gross. So that's my advice.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And I'm not big on being salesy. Like it makes me uncomfortable when people do it to me. So I don't want to do that to others. So thank you so much. Yeah. I think the polls and the asking the questions probably it will work for me. Yeah. Thank
Any
you.
other thoughts on that? Great question. Again, the question is, how do you get the right followers on Instagram and Facebook or others, rather than just hitting for, oh, I just need thousands and thousands. You don't need thousands and thousands. You need the right fans. You need the right followers. And it's a great question to ask. Go ahead, Kathy.
I think you need to create your ideal customer persona and then speak in the words that they would use, the terminology they would use, the sort of personality of the person, and every single post that you make has to sort of be that ideal customer or typical customer, not necessarily ideal, in mind whenever you do anything. I'm in sort of the tourism industry, and I was lucky enough that they have created a various personas for me. Well, not for me, but for the industry, and I can kind of pick which one. And so they have a great thing on, all kinds of personality traits about them and their interests and their travel attitudes. And so this is like sort of my Bible that I use to, this person's called a knowledge seeker. And then there's a little bit of a younger demographic that's a connected explorer. So that's what I use when I'm making my posts.
That's a great idea, is get into the mind of your audience. And often we are our own audience. So Kathy, I know your business, and I remember you saying you started the Good Food Tours because you went somewhere and you had a food tour and you loved it. So you came back to Almont and you started a food tour. So in that way, you are also your own customer. Whereas, yes, the tourism industry has created there's personas, but you also understand what it took you to get on that food tour, wherever it might have been. And so again, for many of us, we are our own customers. So back to Alisa's point about authenticity and being yourself, and Megan too, this idea that, how would you talk to yourself a few steps back or a few years ago? Use that voice and you can kind of really understand yourself. Usually you have a business around, you're providing a solution to a struggle that you yourself experience. So I thought I would just tag that on there. Cheyanne, go ahead, you have a thought.
To continue that same kind of idea, a shortcut to that I found for my clients is the questions that you get from people in person and those conversations you find having yourself in a reoccurring way. Start those conversations on social media, because your ideal audience, the people who will fit with you, they're wondering the same thing and they have the same questions already.
So good. Yeah, so creating posts around those questions, or also Megan mentioned throwing questions out there, of course, to get engagement, to attract the right attention. I'll just add a thought now before we go to the next question, whoever might be ready to ask the next question, is that I am very cognizant of blocking people on who follow. So I'm not looking, I can't wait to have thousands. I don't care who it is. No, because that also attracts the wrong people. When there are a whole bunch of Bitcoin crypto people that want to follow you in a single day, like that's usually right now, that's the trend. It's like block, because as soon as you allow one, somehow they all find you through this algorithm. I don't know how it works. So be aware, if someone doesn't have a photo, block them. If someone has some sort of suspicious bio line, I have certain trigger words I look for, I block them, right? I will not just take anybody to get a follower, because then it attracts the wrong followers. It's like a snowball. So they'll throw that in as well. Go through your followers, go through the list and start blocking people, because we don't just want anyone. So great question, Alisa. All right, who would like to throw out another question about social media?
Can I just ask something?
Oh yeah, Kristine.
That? Sorry, on my Instagram, they're engaging posts, but I'm getting people with like really suggestive profiles who are commenting, asking me to DM them.
Oh yeah, that's a very common one. Yeah. So
really? Okay.
Yeah, very common, right? So I saw somebody just put something out yesterday, and I noticed in the comments that was what, like, you should share this photo on XYZ platform, right? It's just a spam. So delete it. Do not leave it on your comments. Again, you just want to delete that. And I'm not sure, I don't think it blocks them automatically, but you could go click on the profile, block them as well. Delete those comments. Absolutely. We don't want to leave those out there. That's just like clutter. And
So
it's taking away from the real followers for sure.
Can you block them on Instagram? I know
You
you
can, yeah, if you click on their name profile, and then it will give you the option to block or restrict or report.
Okay.
You can report. Sometimes I've reported because it's like so frustrating, you know?
Okay.
So Lisa's just to be mindful of the chat that there's some comments in there as well. Thank you, Lisa, as well. So who would like to ask another question or has a thought to share today around social media, making it work for our businesses? Go ahead, Megan.
Hi, I'm wondering if anybody has done the, it's like a new feature and it's called like co-present, and it's where you do a reel, but you're doing it alongside somebody. A couple of people have done it with me, and I just don't know how to do it. And I want to, because I'm running a contest with another company right now, and I want to be able to make a reel that's like both of us. So what happens is it shows up in my reels and it also shows up in theirs. And so you can sort of get double the engagement, because if your folks are doing views and their folks are doing views, then it just sort of, and the more views you have, the more it gets pushed into other people's feeds. Does anyone know? I'll see what let me just look it up and see what it's called.
Yeah, Instagram just came out with a bunch of new features. I'm not sure if you folks noticed some of them. Has anyone used that co-presenting mode?
No.
I find Megan's usually a few steps ahead of me anyways, all of these Instagram features. You're gonna have to teach us, Megan.
If I find out, Carrie, I'll tell you. And then if
Yeah.
you want to share it in a newsletter or something.
It's great. I mean, I know for a fact that Instagram, when we talk about how do we get more engagement, even back to the original question as well, I know that Instagram wants us to use more video and more, like that's the way they don't want us so much on the grid. They want to see us in the video. When we use video, it will share it with more people. I know that. However, not all of us are comfortable with that. And I'm of the mind that I will do what I feel comfortable doing. And just because Instagram says it doesn't mean that suddenly I have to become a video star. I mean, as I'm comfortable with it, I will do it. And I think we all have to remember, we all have individual agency over what we share, how much we share, and that we need to do not only what we just feel comfortable with. I guess I get it that we need to be outside our comfort zone sometimes, but what works for us and our business, and that's entirely acceptable. So give your permission for that. All right, next question about social media, something that perhaps we can chime in and comment on or help out with. Go ahead, Darcelle.
Hi, everyone. So I've had businesses before, Carrie knows that, and I'm starting a new business. And what I'm looking to do down the road here, not too far away, is to create a membership. And so my question is I'm looking to probably create that membership on my website, but I'm also considering using a private Facebook group for that membership. And I was just curious if anybody knew anything about that, because Facebook allows you to do it, but I've just never seen anybody do that. So I was just curious if anybody else had seen or knew anything about that. Thank you.
So you're speaking about the paid version of the membership Facebook. Yeah,
exactly.
So of course, we're all familiar with Facebook groups, but Facebook in certain parts of the states allows you to have paid memberships through Facebook. Now, I know Alyssa's from Brooklyn, New York. I don't know if you see that more readily than we do, but to my knowledge, it's not yet allowed in Canada. And that's disappointing because I too was very interested in that. Paid membership groups are great, a great way to, diversify your revenue, but right now it's not available in Canada. When I researched it, that was the answer I came up with. Not to say that next week they couldn't suddenly say, here it is, but I think that as Canadian Facebook users, we would get a big notification and there would be definitely some kind of news shared.
Right.
So I would say it's not yet available. If you want to have a paid membership, like you said, you can do it through your website. There is very often a widget that you can add to your website. What platform are you using again, Darcelle?
Yeah, I'm using Shopify. And so there's a product called Bold, and that's a great membership tool that's add-on app. And so I'll be going that route. But I was just curious how to use Facebook private group in that, So I have some ideas around it. I'll probably, just for if anybody else was curious about it, is I'll probably, you know, have that private group, and then those members, you know, they'll get the first kind of notification of, you know, if they come into that group, then they may get an extra discount kind of thing. And then that way I can draw people from Facebook into the website, into that membership.
Absolutely. It's
So,
brilliant. It's a great strategy. Go ahead, Laura, you had a comment I saw in the chat. If you would like to, you can take yourself off mute for sure.
Yeah, I was going to offer that. Well, at first I had to ask, are you creating a community, or are you specifically creating well, even if you're creating membership, but are you creating a community where people come centered around your product, or is it come and learn how to use the product better? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I sell products, but I also sell services that assist people with those products. And so it would probably be a little mix of both. It will be where people will get discounts off of the products. And then it will also be extra learning that they would have that other people may not have access to. So yeah, so and they may get a discount and have a free workshop where somebody else would have to pay for that workshop kind of thing. So part of that membership, they would get all of those services included in their membership.
So I would offer, I don't know if you've heard, so I'd offer Mighty Networks. That is a community that's specifically designed to create community. That's its platform, what it's about. Circle is newer than Mighty Networks. I can say that I am, because I'm in the midst of the same thing. I'm launching very soon, my beta. And so I would offer those two. And then also those two are based in the US, if I'm correct. Clustered is based in Berlin. Now, clustered is a little different because it's more specific. So if your focus is focusing people around a product, I would mention clustered. Clustered is not about community. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that, but it's less about. Mighty Networks and Circle are more like Facebook. Clustered is not. It's more about, hey, come and we're focused on one specific niche topic, or one hyper focused on one topic, and then we speak about that and go in depth. And so that's what I'd offer. Hope that I'll put the links in there.
I beat you to it, Laura. I put the Mighty Networks in there, but if you want to put Circle in, please feel free. And actually, I just dropped an article. Now, keep in mind, it's from the point of view of Mighty Networks, but it's Mighty Networks versus Circle. So sometimes, I mean, it's, sometimes it's good to compare, and obviously those two are probably the biggest competitors against each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Mighty Networks has more influencers and is more curated. It's not more curated. It's the oldest one, right? So it has, because I'm in groups on both of these platforms. Mm-hmm. Mighty Networks it has the capacity to host courses and to post. There's a couple other things there are two other things that Mighty Networks has that Circle doesn't. Now Circle is releasing updates regularly. So, it seems like they're catching up. So I will offer that. Circle is definitely newer. So they're growing. So if you're comfortable growing with them. And then, like I said, Clustered is something different. Yeah. And then the last thing about Mighty Networks and Clustered is, Mighty Networks and Circle is that Circle does have companies more than Mighty Networks. The Mighty Network is really geared towards influencers, solopreneurs, that type of thing.
Yeah, I definitely have heard of both brands, just to let you know that they're definitely both reputed community building networks. And one strategy, Darcelle, or for anyone, I would suggest, if you're looking at a paid membership, make sure you have a free membership first that you can, to get people used to what your community is, the value you offer, and then to pull people into that next stage, the next level. So it's almost like there would be people, if they can't afford or aren't comfortable with paying, there's still some free value that you're offering through your free community, which I would then use Facebook. Everyone's familiar with it. Thank you, Laura, for dropping that in there.
Yeah, that's great.
And then perhaps, say, hey, now I've got a VIP, and that's definitely what the paid version is that VIP services, concierge, whatever you want to call it, that they're hooked because they are hooked on your free value. And they're like, tell me more, Darcelle, tell me more. And then it's like, if you would like, here's that next level.
Well, and that actually answers my question for me in terms of using Facebook private group for that free introduction, and then switch and then bring them over to the website where there actually is the paid membership. So that would enable me to use both and use it for those in those ways. So that's perfect. Thank you so much for that information, Laura. It's great.
And I know it's a lot of work, and that's the one thing, how many hours do you have in the day? And you have to think about that. But I would maintain the free group, like I say, even if you had a paid one, just to have a pipeline, right? Always, because again, if someone joins your Facebook page, you can directly invite them to come into your group. Of course, we know that they'll see more of your posts in the group. That's again how the algorithm works. There's two-way communication in a group. So there's a lot of advantages to that Facebook group, even on a free level. And then I would say, once you've established those strong relationships, which again, social media is great for, then I would ladder up into that paid membership once they see the value and like, oh, if I'm getting this for free, what am I going to get for a fee? Right. So great Perfect. Question. Love it.
Thank you.
And I just say that both of those platforms have freemium as well. So I'm free in one of my groups. I'm paid in another two of my other Mighty networks. So that is an option.
Okay, very good.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Laura, are you in the States? I forget. Yeah, these are more popular platforms in the States for sure than in Canada. So we're always a couple steps behind in terms of social media because things are released there first, it seems. Very, very helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, go ahead, Kristine.
Quick question. I mean, how many groups do we need to belong to? And it's a time frame thing. Facebook groups and then Circle and then Mighty Networks. I mean, do you look at your time constraint and you think, okay, well, I've got so much time. I mean, the amount that we could do is limitless, but it's how much actual time we have in a day running our business to do this. How many platforms should we be on to build our business? One of my daughters just said to me, Mom, you need to be on Clubhouse. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like 25. Like, what? And she's like, really, Mom, it's up and coming. Clubhouse is the way to go. And, it just seems like we're bombarded with all of these things. And, when you look at your demographic and what they're going to be at, and I'm like, you're 25, honey. And she's like, honestly, Mom, it's up and coming. You need to be here. I'm like, well, I need to be in a lot of places. I need to run my business. I need to do my laundry. I need to clean my house. I need to drink wine at 5 o'clock. So
I need to have a life.
Honestly, and this can become like a rabbit hole where you can just keep going. And I'm just wondering, how many of you are doing all of these things? Like how many of you, just by a show of hands, are on Circle or are on Mighty Networks? Like, can I see?
So those are newer platforms for Canada. And I think that to Darcelle's point, that is a part of her revenue stream. So if it's not a part of your revenue stream, you certainly don't need to do it. And that's the question. Is there some way that it's a part of your business plan or your business strategy? If it's not, I think we all will raise our hand to say, you are off the hook, Kristine. You definitely do not need to be all of the things. Actually, we've had previous virtual cafes where that very same question came up because it's overwhelming. So I'm sure others would like to chime in here. My advice is pick one and be consistent there. So if it's Instagram, do that. I know you're on Instagram, Kristine. If you're on Facebook, again, you don't have to jump everywhere. It's actually impossible to be everywhere. Pick it, do it well, be consistent. Darcelle, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's exactly it. I mean, I'm mid-50s, and I don't need the money. Like, honestly, I'm set. I'm good. So this is just my thing that keeps me busy, but I don't want to be too busy. So for me, Facebook is my main driver. Like, I'm already getting clients from Facebook, so that's where I'll stay. I may use Instagram just to sort of, see how that demographic will work with me, because I'm going to be, also, I have a little bit of a younger demographic in part of what I do for my business. And I also do weddings. And so for the weddings, I definitely use Instagram. I think it was Megan that was saying, lots of questions, lots of polls, things like that to generate interest. So I would say, just use one or two platforms that really speak to you and your audience, and what the ones that you find that are driving the most traffic. I've used Pinterest in the past, and then I found it, it was just kind of people were interested and they follow, but no real business came from that ever. So I just stick to the ones that work, and I cap myself out at two platforms, and then that's it, you know. And then if one of those platforms don't work for you, then yeah, go to, if Clubhouse would work for your demographic, then go to that. But what Carrie said about sticking with, you know, one or two that work is perfect. So.
But I mean,
Yeah.
what if as a rebuttal to that, Darcelle, you know, what if, you know, I mean, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, you know, I you know, tweet here and there, but I'm primarily on Facebook and Instagram. We have a Pinterest account too. But I mean, you can't really, there's no ROI on the time that you invest in that. Right. It's not like I can quantify, you know, who's come, you know, I own a travel company, right? So I can't tell that somebody's come to me to go to Quebec City because they saw it on Instagram or they saw it on Facebook. So it's really hard for me. I don't have a tangible product like, you know, my girlfriend sells candles, right? She can totally see what happens. I don't have that, but I have a lot of, I mean, I touch people a lot. It's, I mean, with, you know, I've always heard the old adage, you know, you don't sell on Facebook, you know, once a week you can possibly list a product, but it's really about touching them. And I'm very involved with my demographic, but, you know, and I get a lot of, you know, looking at the analytics, it's very popular, but you know, am I selling anything? I don't know, not on Facebook, but I'm touching them.
No,
So,
but the fact that they are seeing you, you know, 30 times in that month or whatever on Facebook, that's what's driving them perhaps, right?
Okay.
So, and it's about asking the people that are using your service, where did you find me? You know, do you know what, have you seen me on Facebook? You know, so as because I was in the travel industry and then COVID hit, so I am no longer in the travel industry. And I know that Facebook does work in terms of people kind of following you. So you need to ask your audience, you know, how they've found you. And if they, you know, follow you on those platforms, and to get a sense, and if you're able to look at your traffic and see that there's a lot of people, and then recognize that maybe some of those people are your customers, you know, if you did a contest or what have you, then you're going to get an answer whether that platform is really working for you or not, you know, so.
Yeah, two really good points, and then we'll head over to Cheyanne. Two were tracking your analytics. So Kristine, you kind of mentioned that you can actually see on your website where the traffic came from. So if it was from Facebook, where it was, and it sounds like you're already tracking that. But the question that Darcelle posed was the key one, to ask your paying customers, how did you hear about it? I even asked my new weekend clients, hey, welcome to weekend. How did you hear about us? Oh, I saw your Facebook ad. Or not ad, but I don't do paid ads, but you know, I saw you guys on Instagram. Oh, so-and-so told me. Okay, word of mouth, right? And so you have various categories, which you can either send out a survey. Yeah, some people will fill it out, but I like to actually in my first engagement say, oh, you know, Darcelle, welcome to weekend. How did you find out about us? Oh, I saw you in the newspaper or whatever it is, right? So if we consistently have that as a process where we record and we ask that question, then we will see and be able to see the ROI. And if we're like, oh, a lot of people are saying they heard about us this way, I would put more dollars and maybe more effort and energy there. Because you're right.
For every one of my brides, I put in, I asked the question of where did they find me? Yeah. And, you know, if it's Facebook or, you know, if it's Wedding Wire, usually it's Wedding Wire. And do I get every person that asks a request from Wedding Wire? No, I don't, but I keep it because that's where a lot of the traffic goes. And then they generate interest, and then I can get a referral, you know, 2 years later from somebody that knew somebody that saw me on Wedding Wire.
Yeah,
so,
it's a long
you know,
game. Yeah, social media is a long game. We've had this conversation as well, that we might not see the ROI today, but it is relationship building. And we know that that is a long game. And unfortunately, you know, when we're trying to get a quick win or a quick sale, we can't always see that. But yeah, good point. Cheyanne, you had your hand up as well.
Again, just to continue this, a good framework to really be able to sit down and see the big picture of this is the customer value journey. So each touch point, your customers are in a different stage of relationship with you. So social media, they're not going to buy from you right away, but it is the talk, right? It's where you start having a conversation with them, and they'll have different questions they have at that point. So it's a good way to really understand how each of these do play into the eventual conversion or sale.
Yeah, it's like this ecosystem, right? It's like if you map it out and what the touch points are, and I love that word because Kristine, you said also like there's that face-to-face communication, which is so valuable. Then there's social media. Then there might be paid ads on the radio if you had paid ads, or there could be word of mouth marketing. There's and experts tell us it takes up to 21 touch points for someone to actually buy from us. 21 touch points, right? So that's why we keep showing up. That's why we stay top of mind. Now that's not 21 times in a day, but again, that's where we play the long game, right? So that's something to just sort of say what feels good to me. Like I'm not going to do reels if I hate them and it's just sucking the life out of me. But maybe I enjoy posting. I know Kristine loves posting, international like photos on her Instagram. And I'm always liking those because it's so interesting, places she's been. And that's a touch point, right? And so, but then we want to make sure we're diversifying, we are integrating our communication strategy. So it's not just Instagram, but maybe we're also popping up at the Kingston Chamber of Commerce as well. That's a touch point, right? Or some of these different areas, hey, in a virtual cafe on weekend, right? So this is networking. This is a touch point as well. All right, great question, Kristine. Thanks for that one. And there's some good chat there in the Zoom chat about you don't join Mighty Networks and Circle. It's not like Facebook groups that you follow exactly. They're usually paid and you become a part of those communities. Certainly different. It's a different level than your free Facebook group. However, I strongly believe like all of my businesses have always had Facebook groups because they are a great place for community, two-way communication. Don't have time for them, don't do them. That's great. One of my strategies for a while was I actually hired someone who was one of my top engagers in my Facebook group. I paid her a certain amount of money and she actually ran that Facebook group for me. So it wasn't even a whole lot of money, but she was happy to do it because she believed in it so much. So just, that's another thought. Can you use a virtual assistant, which we've talked about before in these virtual cafes? Can you employ a virtual assistant to help you maybe if there is enough value for you? And community building, there's no downside. Let me just say, there is no downside to building a community, however you choose to do it, whether it's on Mighty Networks, Facebook, or person to person. We should all be doing that as business owners. Just how we decide to do it is up to us. It's entirely your decision for sure. Okay, great question. Another thought or question that someone might have that we can jump into. Oh, do you have a follow-up thought, Kristine?
New question.
Oh, could I just give everyone, I want to make sure that everyone has a chance if there is, but I've noted that. Kristine has another one, but before we get to it, is there someone else that has a question? Because I want to make sure if you came with a question, we want to make sure to get to as many of these as we can today.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Dee.
Hi. So basically, the challenge that I've been having with one of my brands, Misfit Culture on Instagram specifically, is I seem to be attracting, because the brand is really heavily rooted in anti-racism and anti-racist work, I seem to be attracting the wrong kind of attention with the posts that, of course, I'm making. So as of late, I've had like a bunch of really hateful racists kind of either following me around on social media or crawling up in my inbox yesterday, or like, I'll get this. So yesterday I had another shop report one of my listings on Etsy as being copyright infringement when it wasn't, because I'm more successful than they are. And like, then that person crawled up in my inbox and was all, oh, you think
Oh, we lost you, Deanne.
it's just a whole other colorism thing that's thing. So at one point I had been toying around with the idea of just changing direction a slight bit, because ultimately the whole point of Misfit Culture when I started it was to be a celebration of a variety of cultures, right? And I kind of plan to link that into the anti-racism or the anti-racist work by kind of showing that there is no really black or white, right? There's cultural things like you might have Ghanaian in you might be Jamaican, you might have Irish, but there isn't really like this concept of black versus white. It's socially constructed, right? Like it's not a real thing, right? And so it was kind of like a more subtle approach in the very beginning. And then of course, with 2020, we had to be a little bit louder about what was happening based on everything that was happening, right? So at this point, I'm just kind of lost a little bit because I've got this little strategy that I've been working, which is obviously getting attention. It's getting both positive attention and negative attention, but I would like to basically figure out what I can be doing to increase the positive intention while I decrease the negative tension, if that makes sense.
Wow, what a great question. And Dion, if you want to just put your, if you want to put your Instagram link in there so people can see it, the Misfit Culture just has a very strong following. Dion is very talented when it comes to sharing the story and message. I mean, one thought that immediately came to mind was hashtags and just using certain hashtags that might, you know, spell out a little bit more your stance on this issue, or, you know, what's not okay. I don't know, like that's one just thought that dropped into my mind immediately. It's like, are there hashtags you're using that you think are attracting the wrong people as well? Because often that's how people find us. Just sort of a rhetorical question. I'll go over to Megan as well. She has a comment.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that's happening. That sucks really badly. One of the things that I noticed was when I get, because a lot of my posts are based in feminism, and so I will get like really awful anti-feminist comments, or I'll get people in my DMs, or like suddenly like a bunch of people you know, like holding guns as their profile picture will start following me, and I'm like, okay, I got to block this. The only thing that I will say that may be helpful is sometimes if you make like pictures of the words that you want to say, and you don't actually put, do you know what I mean? Like if you write stuff in like in Canva, then that can sort of avoid having all the negative stuff coming at you, but still get your message across. That's something that I found that can help sometimes.
Thanks,
Okay,
Megan.
awesome.
Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't see the big raise your hand sign at the bottom. So the first thing I was going to offer, I'm in the same space. I'm not on Instagram. I'm occasionally on Instagram, but what I was going to say is that I'm connected with people who are, and when there's a system of reporting, like screenshotting and reporting, and just getting in the loop of that, of making that part of being on Instagram is okay. Ticking these people off, and not ticking, but you know what I mean, like snapshotting and reporting them is kind of a part of what I'm thinking of, specifically someone who gets a lot of harassment. And then in addition, I know at least on Instagram, Twitter, that are fairly responsive. There are accounts that you can tag that help with the bots and those and the trolls. I cannot remember them off the top of my head. But I think if you search, but I do know Twitter definitely has it, because I follow one of the people who run it. I know, and they were talking about Instagram. So I would say that also, because I would offer, this is that them coming to you, one is an opportunity to maybe highlight, and if they've come to you, you can take advantage of the comment and express, oh, here's an example of the construct at work, and wish you well, peace and blessings, that type of thing. So taking it and utilizing it, because they are giving you, a comment is a comment, and you could double down on that and be like, thank you very much, because they won't come back. I promise you that. When I respond to people who are attempting to harass me, one has not returned. So I would just offer those things. I hope that's helpful and made sense.
Yeah, so I've tried, I didn't know anything about the like tags or accounts that you can tag to help with it. What I've been doing, if I feel up to it, because I feel like also when you're in the anti-racism space, there has to be a healthy amount of self-care that you engage in. And so depending on the mental state that I'm in, on the day. So like if this has happened where somebody's followed me around Twitter for the day, and now that person has also found me on Instagram, and we've engaged back and forth, and now they're kind of piling on, maybe my response, I'm done with it, you know what I mean? And my point is to then just block the people and move on. But I have engaged back in some cases. So it's kind of like I take the approach of kind of looking at it like, what do I feel will most empower me in that moment. Sometimes it's using my voice, other times it's protecting my peace, right? But in general, I do notice, to Carrie's point, there are certain hashtags, obviously, that racists are following, like end racism, anti-racism, you know what I mean? That I notice if you use those hashtags, then you start to see this uptick in racists just kind of following you around and commenting on what you're commenting on. But my thing is it like, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is where's the balance, right? Like, do I engage with some of those hashtags on some days or some weeks, maybe like bi-weekly kind of situation, and then employ a different strategy? Because at the end of the day, ultimately, the brand is about kind of self-acceptance. It's about helping other people feel safe in their own space and in their own skin. And part of that is by claiming what's yours, right? So like claiming your heritage, expressing yourself with a shirt that kind of says what you're feeling. And I even have like, you know, self-care shirts and stuff like that. So it's like, I want to engage in a way that's authentic for me, but also in a way that almost empowers other people to feel comfortable engaging as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Laura, did you have a comment there? No? No.
Sorry,
yeah.
yeah, I would say then I would offer going through and just shutting, you can delete and mute the comments so no one sees them. And again, you don't, this was offered to me by an influencer who did a class on this. I think it was Kev on Stage. And he makes it clear, like in his like the comments are edited or what are curated. And then like twice a day, someone goes through and just mutes all the comments and we just keep moving. So I would offer that. But yeah, it feels like that's, you know, what I would offer is there's no right thing and you can change it at any time, right? You said, where's the balance and what I heard was, where is the balance and where are my boundaries? You know, humanity is not static. So I would offer that you continue to extend grace to yourself and allow them to fluctuate, you know?
Good comment. Darcelle?
Awesome.
Yeah, so the one, I mean, luckily I've only had it one time and the individual didn't go away. But how I did it was just, you know, wish them well and kind of light and love but I left the comments up there for a time to use it as a learning for what I was trying to explain to people. And I don't, when I'm very private, like Alisa. So when I go on social media, if I say something personal, then it's a big deal. And so I had to suck it up and leave it there on purpose to get people to see, you know, the difficulty that people of color face and how, you know, it was just a simple thing that I was saying, you know, supporting something good and somebody came and lashed out. And so I think just, you know, like Laura was saying, using that time to kind of educate people. And then what I did after a day or so, it was like, okay, I've gotten the response that I was looking for in terms of people talking about, you know, racism and kind of supporting my intention. And once that happened, then I was like, okay, it's time to delete that person's comment because now he's served that purpose and there's no use for him, you know, because it was negative in my life anymore. And so, you know, I would just say, stay strong and continue to do what feels right for you. And using those hashtags that promotes positivity and love, I think will help benefit and people will kind of know your intention. And then, you know, people are just going to say that person's a jerk or racist and, you know, they'll call themselves out basically.
Thanks for that. Great
Awesome.
question, Dion. And I think we're all just, you know, cheering you on. You're doing amazing work. And so keep doing what you're doing. And I know you're a part of this community. So we'll find out as things move on, how that's the solution will come. And I'm excited to hear what it's going to be. So, and in some cases, it's like an ongoing journey, as Meg pointed out that, you know, when different people have different point of views, some of them very extreme. That's, yeah, it's just the culture we live in, isn't it? Not that that's okay.
No, for sure.
Thanks. Thanks for sharing that, Deanne. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, we have a few minutes left here at the end. We do have time for one more question and discussion because it seems like there's about 10 or 15 minutes around each one, which I think is great. It gives us a chance to go a bit deeper into them. And I wish we could do a whole session on each one of these. Any other questions that we want to put out there? I know Kristine had one if we don't have a new one, but am I missing anyone? Go ahead, don't be shy. All right, Kristine, you're up. What was your other follow-up question?
I just wanted to ask all the other ladies, how many of them blog?
Okay, so let's do a show of hands. How many of you blog? There's 3 of a 4
I
or
blog,
5.
but
6.
it's
I think some of the blogs and they're not regular probably.
want
That's
to do
what I
it.
mean
You
by
have
this.
to be consistent.
Yeah,
So
consistent.
how many? Like, I mean, there's 19 of us on here. I just want to see a show of hands. And
There's
is it
about 5 of us? 5 of
and
us
is
have
it,
blogs.
are you building community with that? Can I see thumbs up?
I'm building traffic.
Traffic and
Yeah,
other
blogs
ladies?
are a great way to optimize your SEO and pull website traffic. That's really the point of blogs, not really a relationship building tool. It's more to optimize it for SEO, talk about topics that people might be searching for in the search bar. And that then, of course, because it's connected to your website, brings more people to your website. That's the strategy with blogs.
Okay, so really, if you're looking to build traffic to your website, you're better off to focus more attention on blogging than Pinterest, say?
Ooh, Pinterest, okay, some of you can weigh in. I actually think Pinterest are a great way to pull traffic to your website as well, because and it's really not a very intensive strategy. So you're pinning the pictures, right, to your Pinterest account, less than 30 minutes a week, I would say, probably much less. And so when you pin those photos, if someone sees it on Pinterest, they go directly to your website. So that's actually a direct link. That would also be a good builder, I would say, for website traffic. Kathy, you had a comment as well there.
I have a general question. You know, do this to get your SEO and all these strategies. In anyone's experience, do you have to get paid ads to actually have this engagement work?
All right. So what do you guys, any thoughts on, are you getting results, ROI from organic traffic, I think is the question here.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Carrie.
It's a great question. Go ahead, Cheyanne.
I think it comes down to the space you're working in. I work with really small local clients, so mostly it's completely organic, but the competition is pretty low on that end. So a little bit of SEO optimization and they're ranking first because the competition is different on that. But if you're working in a much larger space, then paid ads become much more crucial.
That's a very good point. What's the competition space? That's a very good question to ask. So Kathy, I know you're trying to pull people in, you know, from outside of your area. There would be more competition perhaps, but if you really focused on, if you're focused on Ottawa, for instance, which is a large city, probably a lot of just competing interests for tourism for Ottawa audiences, more so than Cheyanne, who's in Quinte West and is really looking just to talk to Quinte West people about Quinte West businesses.
Yeah.
Very different.
Thanks.
Any other ones want to weigh in on that? Kristine, yeah.
No, somebody in the chat just mentioned a one sheet. What is that?
Meg, what's a one sheet?
So it's like an extra little bit of information. It can be like a checklist or an extra exercise or something that it's just like a little bit more extra information than what you're getting in the blog post. But what you're trying to do if you have a newsletter is get folks to join your newsletter. And so that the way that they can get this extra, so you're giving them lots of great stuff in the blog post, but if they want a bit of extra stuff, then they subscribe to your newsletter and then they get the one sheet delivered that way. And it's, you know, it's also got to have great stuff. But then the trick is to pin specifically the extra, like that, the one sheet, so that gets people excited about the one sheet. And then they also get driven to your website because they're going to the blog post, which they have to get to the one sheet. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. It's like a freebie. The one sheet's a
How do you
freebie.
make a one sheet?
So
It's like a
literally
PDF of information.
So it could be a checklist,
Yeah.
Kristine, like what to pack when you're going to Ireland. Rain boots. No, I'm just kidding. Like what to pack when you're going to Ireland. Like it could be anything about what you're speaking in that blog post about. So you're talking about Ireland maybe that day. Oh, if you want a free PDF on or a free checklist of what to take on your next trip to Ireland, click here. And then Megan is saying, pin that to Pinterest, because then when you're on Pinterest, they go straight to your offer, which is of course available when they opt into your newsletter.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's very strategic. Well done. Good,
Oh.
good thought there.
That's my nugget. Thank you, Megan.
Woo, we all love an aha moment. There it is right there. Love it. All right, we have about 4 minutes left. Any other thought or question that we can squeeze into this hour? Thank you.
Hey, I have a question. You know, Megan in the chat, she said refer to training, use blog as a way of giving information to folks. But then she said, then I can refer clients to specific blogs. I mean, do you mean the folks and then the clients the same people or different people?
Sorry, could you repeat the last question?
Oh, because can you see that? I think it was Megan. She said, I use blog as a way of giving free info training to folks. Yep. And then I can refer clients to specific blog posts. So do you mean the folks and clients the same thing here?
Yeah. So hi, it's Megan. So I write blog posts. I'm a speaking coach. So sometimes I'll think of a topic referring to public speaking that people could use help with. So I'll make a blog post about it. But then when I'm working with clients, I also am able to refer them back to that little bit of training so that they have sort of extra places they can go to access my training. So it's free, it's available to everybody, but it also means that I can say, you know, if I have a session with somebody and there's like 5 things that I know will really help them to get to the next level, I'll refer them back to 5 blog posts that cover each of those different topics. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got it. So the first was a bit wider audience. And then when they become your clients, you can still refer them back to your blogs. They can actually refer to someone else. Spread the word.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully people spread the word. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and another way to repurpose your blogs, back to this idea of time, which has come up many times. When you have a blog and you have a newsletter, let's say, and you're like, I don't know what to put out in this newsletter this week. I mean, many people do what's called a blog roundup, where if you put out your newsletter once a month, your newsletter could actually be, hey, here are the blog posts that came out this month that you might, or last month, that you might be interested in. We talked about Ireland, we talked about England, and we talked, I'm really a UK today. And we talked about Brooklyn, New York. And so, you know, people, so in your newsletter, you're pointing them again to your blog posts, right? In the blog posts are those freebies, those nuggets that to get them on your, well, no, not if they're already on your newsletter, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, it could be ROI, it could be paid offer. So repurpose the content at every opportunity. Of course, in your social media, if you have a blog, you could also say, hey, everyone, my new blog post dropped today. It's about Ireland. I'm excited for you to look, you know, check it out. So like, you don't have to come up with new content for every single one of these tools. Let's say even you had 2 or 3, repurpose that content because we only have so many hours in the day, for sure. All right, so we're at time, folks. Thank you so much for the great questions. I know we've only scratched the surface. Definitely come back and see us another time. If you are looking to reach out to me, I'm going to put my email in there right now. And we would love to add you to our email list if that's helpful, so you can find out what the next workshops are that are coming up. Of course, everything is always free because we are funded by FedDev Ontario. Doesn't matter where we are. We're glad to have some folks south of the border. And I believe it's Thanksgiving weekend down there, is it not? Coming up. So happy Thanksgiving to you folks. We had our turkey last month. So have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. And thanks everyone for showing up. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.